Today, for the first time, Jacoby Brissett got reps with the ones. And it is, it's worth noting, and it was funny because it happened so haphazardly, not haphazardly, it happened so slyly, and it was such kind of a sleepy day at practice that I feel like I noticed it before anybody else, and because everyone was kind of just, you know, not as locked in as you would be if it's a full padded practice on a, you know, on a whatever day of training camp. It's one of those days where there's no fans, so the energy was different. They also were practicing on the side field, not the side field, but like not the main field. So if you've come out to training camp and you know the main field that they typically practice on, well, with the weather and also just to take care of the fields, they rotate around, and they did it on a day, obviously, where the fans weren't there. That'd be kind of rude. Hey, welcome everybody, 3,000 people, come on down. We're going over there to practice. But it's the far field that's on the same line as the main practice field, as opposed to the other one. There's a third field that they use a lot more during the regular season. Anyway, point is, we were in a weird spot. Everything just felt off and low-key, and the weather was overcast. And all of a sudden I look up, and Jacoby Brissett's out there slinging it to Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, and he's behind Andrew Wiley and Nick Gates and Sam Cosmi and Chris Paul, which, by the way, Chris Paul, another day with the ones. I think the left guard battle is over. We'll see when Sidney Charles is back fully healthy, and we'll see who starts on Friday, but I do think that we were ahead of the curve by about a day on that one, that Chris Paul is going to be the starting left guard for the Commanders, and it does seem like that position battle is distinctly going in that direction. Anyway, point is, Jacoby was back there. And, of course, Rivera was asked about it afterwards and basically said, we've been looking for an opportunity to do this. And what today was what they call a 10-10-10 practice. So a 10-rep offense, 10-rep defense, 10-rep special teams. So you never got the full ones-on-ones deal. And so the first team offense would go out there and the second or third string defense would go out. And Sam Howell was the first guy to take those reps. But then there was like 2 periods where Brissett wound up taking 20 reps in a row, I guess, where he would take the ones and the twos. And it's worth noting because to the extent that there's ever a quarterback competition that develops here, it's the first data point that we would have to say like, oh, okay, they did actually do that. But to me, what it is a total non-story, to just be extremely clear about this, a total non-story and smart management. It is as simple as if Jacoby Brissett has to play this season, you would like the first pass he throws to Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson or Curtis Samuel or whoever not to be that week or often the way it goes down in the game that he comes in for the injured starter. And for a team that has played 3 quarterbacks every year since Kirk Cousins left, it would seem smart to have a couple of reps in the bag. Here's Rivera, though, after practice today on Brissett taking those reps.
Yeah, at some point he's going to have to work with them, just so he gets to know them and they get to know him. We started talking about that the last couple days, trying to figure out when would be a good opportunity to do it. And so one of the things that Eric and Tavita thought this would be a good one with the 10-10-10 practice today. And so we went ahead and gave him the last couple in each period.
So that's not entirely accurate because there were some times that Hal just didn't go out there at all in a particular team period, which is fine. Like Sam's gotten a ton of reps. And I think that's the larger thing. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more next, a lot more in depth, where they've run so many plays this training camp that Sam Howell threw, this is day 11, the latest count I saw. I feel like, Anthony, we are simply going to call this day 11 and boo. We're going to call this day 11? Yeah, that's fine. Start the new board. That's something else we got to do today. Friday's show. This is the board is now dated, the fine board. Anthony and I will be having lunch tomorrow on, I believe it's a 70-30 split with me paying the 70 and him paying the 30. And but you already had an overflow. So actually I think you're ahead 10-5 in the new. But we'll rectify that in the break. Anyway, the point is, let's say the average practice last year was, 65 to 70 plays. Well, if it's 7, I'm going to do 7s here. If it's 7 days worth of 70 plays, that's 490 plays. 7 times 7 is 49. 7 times 70 is 490. I'm trying to keep this in math I can do, bro. Let's say of that, let's even pretend, this is not how it works, but let's pretend that he got all of the snaps. Right, he had run 490 plays, right? Well, if you're running 100 snaps a practice through 7 practices, that's 700 snaps. So you do the math on how many more Sam Howell has gotten than Carson Wentz did last year, even if they were to actually split them evenly in terms of the percentages of first, second, and third teams, which means that as long as Sam Howell is learning at the level that he should, they've got the room to work Jacoby in. Like there's no harm in doing this. There is harm in long term if you have to use Jacoby Brissett and he hasn't had any reps with the ones, and it takes you longer than it should to not be disjointed in practice or in a game because there's unfamiliarity, there's communication issues, there's whatever it may be that can come from not having those reps. So that's one thing. I think the more interesting thing with Brissett is Rivera's comments yesterday. Rivera yesterday after practice was asked about, kind of starting the game week of like, hey, what's going to happen on Friday? And he kind of made it sound like Brissett might get some time with the ones on Friday, in part because they know how important he is and they don't want to put him behind a second-string offensive line, where you wonder if Sam, say, gets the first 2 to 3 drives, depending on how it goes, Terry, Jahan, Curtis, those guys, all the skill guys come out, and Jacoby goes in with some of that first string or all of the first string offensive line. Maybe your Cole Turners and your younger skill guys. A De'Ami Brown is playing more receiver, but like Jahan comes out. Terry comes out for sure. Logan Thomas, assuming he's healthy by Friday, is out. And you roll from there. Or it's a hybrid offensive line where you leave a guy like Cosme in to get a few more reps at guard because he hasn't had a ton of them. And you pull a guy like Wiley out. Leno, comes out. Like there's ways you can mix and match that are both beneficial to the cross training where you have position groups where guys rotate, or you want guys comfortable playing in tandem. So you want your backup tackles to have some reps with your starting guards. And a Cornelius Lucas is like a good guy to have because he's your swing tackle that could play with either guy during the season, and that could be a good plan for Brissett to get to halftime, and then you pull everybody and Jake Fromm and company come in. That's also something that I would like to talk about tomorrow on the show, in part because I want to ask Ron about it first, is how do you handle the preseason in general? Because with these joint practices, like playing the game against Baltimore doesn't matter. The practices are more important. But then do you treat the third preseason game like the old third preseason game? That way you don't go 3 weeks without playing real football. So there's like some really interesting strategic decisions to make. Some decisions obviously have already been made by the Commanders in terms of how they are structuring practice. I've been continuing to kind of like poke around on some of this stuff, and I continue to be impressed. And so why the light practice today actually impressed me a lot, and why I think that they're doing this right. And hopefully it has dividends to pay during the season. I'll explain next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. All right, I feel like we're in the show now, Anthony. That first segment was a little hectic. I realized right before we started that I hadn't grabbed my headphones out of my locker. Now, luckily, I had with me in my bag another pair. And so if you're watching on the stream, then you saw I had the in-ear monitors in. Which I brought with me. So today was kind of a wacky day because I had something to do at 1:30 at the facility, and practice ended at like 10:45, and we also had to take command. And so I this morning was like, all right, I'm just gonna bring my setup and I'll take command at the facility in one of the tents, like one of the media tents, and it'll be fine. I'll just bring a little tabletop setup, whatever. Somewhere in the reorganization of our apartment, my tabletop mic stands have disappeared. No idea where they are. Cannot find them. I used to have 4 of them, right? And these are like things I bought years ago for podcast purposes and, remote radio stuff, like my own home setup. I was building my home studio over time and can't find them. Not 1, 2, 3, or 4 gone. And so I was like, I guess I got to bring the big guy. And so I brought like like what you'd imagine a full mic stand would be, like a big arm, L-shaped one. And so I had to like lug that thing around. But also I brought my little in-ear monitors because I didn't want to bring a pair of like radio headphones that I leave intentionally in place. So yeah, it was kind of a chaotic start, and then it just didn't feel like the radio show because I had the monitors in instead of these radio headphones. This says radio. That says not radio.
Yeah, when I looked over, I didn't know what was going on. I thought you were trying something new, but it's good to see that you have your new headphones. And yes, I do now feel, like I'm ready for this.
I just also feel like I'm settled.
Yeah. That first segment, I was all over the place, too.
Yeah, but we did it.
Yeah.
We survived. And sometimes just getting going is the most important thing. Sometimes, you don't feel good. Here's free fitness advice from your local radio host that also is a fitness professional. If you don't feel like you want to work out on a particular day, warm up. And if you still feel like crap, then don't work out. And if you feel better, there you go. Just got to convince yourself to get through the warm-up. And 4 o'clock came and our show started and we had to do it. But I feel genuinely excited for the rest of the show now. Also, our guy Matt Paris just came through. He's going to come on at 5 o'clock. So that's exciting. We'll talk about the U.S. Women's National Team and their loss in the World Cup in just a few minutes. Real quick, though, and I will talk, I think, more about this later on in the show as well during our training camp Pick 6 at 6. But I continue to be impressed with the Commanders' approach to this training camp. And today they go light after a heavy day yesterday. They'll go heavy tomorrow, light on Wednesday from, I think that's the current plan right now, and then obviously walk through Thursday before they get on the plane, and then they're in the kind of that game rhythm. That's the same thing that happens during a week. You practice heavier on Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is lighter, and then Saturday they do a walkthrough that is close to the media, just like I presume that they'll do that Thursday. For all I know, they just get on the plane and go. But Thursday they go to Cleveland, which is like a Saturday, or they play on Friday, which is like Sunday during the season. But on a larger scale, there's a couple of things that I think have led them to having a relatively healthy camp, and I think a relatively productive camp. A lot of it is Eric Bieniemy driven, but I think a lot of it is like smart sports science-y, someone who does coach and like do strength and conditioning and all that kind of stuff. It just strikes me as well done, well organized, and smart. I think Bieniemy came in and clearly wanted to do things differently. The way they practice in Kansas City is very old school, like Andy Reid. Like, he's been doing this stuff. You talked to B. Mitch about it. They were doing this stuff in the 1990s in Philadelphia. And there is a general resilience that you build up by being in condition. Like, that is real. Like, and by the way, you show up to camp knowing your butt better be in shape, because day one, you're going to hit the ground running. And in that first practice, if you listen to Take Command, or, you've heard me reference this on the show, Like Logan could not believe after day one, which is an hour and a half, like initial practice, they ran 80 plays in the practice. They just get back on the ball and go faster. And there is a lot of benefit to that. One, you just get more reps, which means you get more learning opportunities. It's more tape to go over. It's more things you can correct. It's more chances to expose mistakes in a practice setting as opposed to figuring out that you don't know what the hell you're doing in a game. But there's also a conditioning element. And when you look at their injury rates the last couple of years, they've been up and down. And some of that is luck. Like, I remember I might get these 2 years backwards. 2021 and 2022, they had opposite injury luck. Like, they were super clean one year, and then next year they had a ton of injuries. I think in 21 they were clean, in 22 they had a bunch of injuries at the start of camp. And part of the reason was it was just dumb hot outside. Like, guys get faster, are tired faster and fatigued faster, and your body is more susceptible to injuries if it's 100 degrees versus 90. And, like, it's been relatively temperate so far this year. So, like, there's just external factors that have nothing to do with being smart. You're just lucky, and, like, you count your blessings and you move forward. And you know that you can push guys a little harder and all that kind of stuff. But you also are more resilient to injury if you're in better shape. And to me, what I think happened is Bieniemy came in and was like, this is what I would like to do. And while there are parts of the organization that I think are going to be upgraded with analytics and sports science and the areas that Josh Harris wants to invest in because it's stuff he thinks helps win, and this team has been relatively cheap in those areas. Like, there are some guys that have been around that are super smart, like the strength coaches. Like Chad Englehart's really, really smart. I know this for a fact. I've talked to Chad enough. He's very, very smart. Brett Nenebar, who has been with Ron for a long time, like, got a very, very good reputation in the league. And, like, you have all these they're like their ATs, their athletic trainers, their physical therapists. You have your team doctors, and, like, all these people have certain inputs into the system, if you will. And I think that it's very clear that once they understood what Bieniemy wanted to accomplish, that they were able to reverse engineer a system to say, okay, well then, if this is the height we need to go to, this is how the ramp is going to look to get there. And the way they built the spring, because they also ran a ton of plays in the spring. And I think guys kind of got it, like, we better be in shape, because if not, we're going to get to training camp and this is going to suck. Or, like, I'm going to get hurt. So they work harder in the offseason. Like, there's a kind of a non-vicious, a circle of productivity that happened that has led them to have a relatively light injury so far camp. And what that hopefully means is these guys are going to be more prepared for the regular season. Because that's the other thing is, like, when you get an injury, it then just puts you back. Like, the season, if you have a hot day and you'd rather not practice, or you have to pull reps because a bunch of guys are hurt or tired or whatever, your data says that, like, hey, we need to pull back some reps from practice. They don't move the season back. It's not like, well, you guys now get to play a week later. It's because you do that. No, you have to be ready by the date. And so it's this high wire act of getting guys ready. And the more days that you stack of good, healthy days, the more resilient you will be down the road, because you actually got the work in as you planned by the time that you were supposed to, as opposed to trying to play catch up and your risk level is up every single day during the season because you couldn't get the preseason work in that you needed due to those injuries. So hopefully, knock on wood, that this stays, but there, to me, just screams a competence about all of this, combined with the new influences of Bieniemy and like smart decision making that I've been very impressed all camp long. And even on a day like today, the way they manage it, I think is very, very smart. And you see obviously the Andy Reid influence not only from Bieniemy but on Ron having familiarity with these 10-10-10 practices going back to his days with Andy back in Philadelphia in the early 2000s. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, U.S. Women's National Team goes down in the World Cup, their earliest ever exit. Why? It's both simple and complex. We'll explain next. It's the Hoffman Show, Team 980, always live on the free Odyssey app. Live on YouTube as well, youtube.com/@theteam980. Our stream's going to be getting some upgrades over the next couple of weeks, so definitely a good time that if you haven't checked it out, good time to start watching on the stream. Again, youtube.com/@theteam980. Listen on your drive home, however it is, whether you fire up the app on your Bluetooth or listen on the radio on 980 AM or 106.7 HD2. When you get home, instead of flipping on whatever, national sports show that doesn't talk about the things that you want to 90% of the time or that you want to hear about 90% of the time, you turn us on. You just go to the YouTube app on your smart TV, you subscribe to the Team 980, and you watch us like a TV show. It's very, very simple. We are here for you. Actually, here, hold on. Anthony, now it's more. We are here for you. Okay. The U.S. Women's National Team lost an absolute heartbreaker yesterday. 0-0 through 120 minutes. They lose on penalty kicks in the longest penalty kick shootout in the history of the sport. I am an advocate for a rule change that when a goalkeeper saves a penalty and it hits the ground, the ball should be dead. If that was in place, the penalty shootout would have gone on. Instead, it bounces back. Alyssa Nair, by literally 1 millimeter, cannot keep the ball out of the net, and that is enough to push the U.S. out of the tournament. It is heartbreaking because this is a team that in so many ways has been set up to fail. And despite that, the fight and the integrity and the character of this team has continued to show through. They are exactly who they are. They know who they are. They know what they represent. They know what they fight for. And beyond all of the off-the-field stuff that, unfortunately, somehow, some way that I don't really understand, that it is a different rant for a different time for, frankly, a different show, puts them in the middle of these culture wars that just, again, don't make sense. I'm just going to leave it there for right now so I don't get sidetracked. As competitors, they're all you could ask for. These are athletes that work tremendously hard, that are the absolute best at what they do, that are good teammates. They care about each other. They're everything that a team should be. There is legacy that is passed down in terms of the work ethic, in terms of the standard. Like, it's everything that you'd want in a national team. And unfortunately, due to fights with their own federation, due to ineptitude within the federation and hiring processes over the years, due to the emotional tolls of having to fight just the most heinous types of misconduct within their own league, this has been an emotionally trying 4 years that has not been primed, that would not prime any team for success. And then on top of that, the coaching in this tournament, and frankly over the last 4 years, has been really subpar, which is stunning because Vlatko Andonovski was a very, very good club coach who seems to get a lot of stuff. He seems like a fundamentally decent person, and yet the way he mismanaged personnel and the tactical errors that he made, the lack of a coherent vision of who this version of this team both wanted to and should have wanted to be, means that they have their earliest World Cup exit in the history of the tournament. The Women's World Cup started in 1991. The U.S. has won, obviously, 4 of them. They have lost a final, and there hasn't been, I can't remember where they left in the other World Cup, but this is their earliest exit. And by the way, it was almost earlier. If a shot against Portugal goes in instead of finds the post, they don't make it out of the group stage, something that had never happened, obviously, before. This is the first time they haven't won their group. So, disappointing through and through. But I think 2 things can be true. Like, you can be disappointed and critical of players, of coaches, while also being empathetic and heartbroken. And as I've said, anytime I talk about this team, this is personal for me beyond a rooting interest. Like, there are not a lot of teams I care about on a fan level like most of you listening anymore. The professional nature of what I do for a living has killed my fandom in a lot of ways because I think it clouds my ability to give the kind of objective analysis that is the way I do this job. if I was an irrational fan, I would be a bad Commanders radio host through the lens of which I've built this thing that we're doing here. Like, I built it on the fact that I was a reporter who was there and was objective. And if all of a sudden I was just doing fan radio, which is fine, like we have hosts that do that, and there are hosts all over that do that, and they're very, very successful. That's not me hating on that style. It's just not me. With this national team, I still have my analytical brain because it's just how my brain works, but also, like, I have friends. I care deeply that Andy Sullivan made her penalty yesterday, because that's something that, say, Sophia Smith is now living with, and that would hurt so bad for my friend. But I still hurt on a human level for Sophia, for Megan Rapinoe, for Kelly O'Hara, who missed their penalties while also going like, hey, you got to make your penalties. But I also think, again, two things can be true. These two seemingly competing ideas. You can be critical and say, you got to make that. But, like, you don't think Megan Rapinoe knows that? Megan Rapinoe, by the way, Megan Rapinoe on penalties is specifically one of the most reliable things in sports. Period. She's more reliable as a penalty taker than Steph Curry is from the free throw line. Going into that penalty yesterday, Megan Rapinoe was 21 of 22 in her career for club and country. 21 of 22. And for the national team, she has arguably the greatest clutch resume ever in the history of U.S. soccer, arguably in the history of the women's game. Remember 2011, the World Cup? There was that famous Abby Wambach header. Ian Dark has the incredible call on ESPN, who had the World Cup at the time. Abby Wambach has saved the USA's life. It was in like the 123rd minute against Brazil. I know this because I just watched the replay right before the show as I was looking up some of this stuff. You know who played that ball perfectly on a dime over the arms outstretched of the keeper onto Abby Wambach's head? It was Megan Rapinoe. Over a decade ago. 2015 plays an enormous role. 2019, I believe she was the Golden Boot winner for the most goals in the 2019 World Cup, which the USA won. She's been to 4 World Cups, 1 runner-up, 2 titles. You tell me the game's on the line on Megan Rapinoe's foot, I sign up for it every time. I do think it's weird that she took it with her right foot. You can also look at that and go, like, that's, I don't know, her left is her strong, but she's 21 of 22. Who am I to argue with Megan Rapinoe on that? But I think larger, and this is something that I'm sure we'll talk about in the coming days when Vlatko Andonovski is fired, which is going to happen, and it should. I hate to say that so flippantly, but like based off the results, it should. What you see on a larger picture is an inability to adapt to changing times. And some of that is like, hey, you're going to have to be sharper because the rest of the world is getting better because they're finally getting investment in the women's game in other parts of the world. And that's fantastic, obviously, for the health and growth of the sport and just like for humanity. That's good. There's more money to be made. There's more people that should get opportunities. Players, coaches, physios, sporting directors, everyone. Like, put more money in, create more jobs. Let's do it. Create more opportunities. But it's also like Alex Morgan is 34 years old and shouldn't be playing the amount of minutes she played in this tournament. And frankly, should not have been starting in this tournament. That doesn't mean she shouldn't have been on the team. That doesn't mean she couldn't have been helpful or useful. But understanding that Sophia Smith is a better option as the striker in the middle of whatever formation they wanted to run, with Lynn Williams and Trinity Rodman, who are in fantastic form on her flanks, and someone like Alyssa Thompson coming in off the bench, would have been nice. Understanding that the game dictated more creativity and on-ball creation and less of whatever Lindsey Horan does in the run of play. And playing Ashley Sanchez or Savannah DeMello would have been nice when Rose Lavelle wasn't an option due to a Bubkiss yellow card rule that needs to be changed. Understanding that 2019 Hall of Fame one-of-one Julie Ertz was no longer playing the holding midfielder role and that you needed to adjust your tactics and your system. And you see the benefit of that in the Sweden game. All of a sudden, Andy Sullivan is one of the best players on the field because you put her in a position to succeed. And from a lack of understanding of the personnel on the baseline level to the lack of understanding of how to manage a full tournament where you have to manage not just the physical load of like, hey, players are going to get heavy legs from playing all these minutes because you, for some reason, hate substitutes, to this is the highest pressure games they've ever played in, and mentally they're going to be fried, which is going to affect their performance. And things like an inability to finish in the final third and missing shots and missing PKs are a result of that because they are toast. And your fine motor skills do not work as well when you are toast like that. Is why he's clearly not the right guy for the job, and why I say ultimately the lead, the biggest piece of the blame pie is directly on Vlatko Andonovski and his coaching staff and the executives that put him there. There are new executives in charge at U.S. Soccer. That coaching staff is going to be gone. Kate McGrath, the general manager, is likely to be gone as well. And good. It's time to do something different. And hopefully it's something that happens quickly, as the Olympics in Paris are now just a year away. Like a year from now, they'll be playing games, and hopefully it will look very different. Hopefully some of the players that are injured that could have helped this team will be back, but hopefully whoever is on the roster will be put in a position to succeed. Because for all the catching up the world has done, and for all of whatever anyone wants to say in any particular way about this team, I still think they have the best collection of talent in the world. And if that talent gets the proper coaching, it's only going to get better. It's going to develop a deeper tactical understanding. They're going to become better as individuals and then also better as a team. And what I really hope is that ultimately is the legacy of this 2023 World Cup, is that moving forward, it caused enough of a shakeup, enough of a wake-up call within U.S. Soccer to say the era of just, hey, we've had Title IX for 20, 30, 40 years, and thus we've actually trained good players and given them some resources, even if it wasn't enough, is no longer enough to win. We have to actually try to be the best. And, that era might have been over for a while, but the competition is thicker than ever. And ultimately, going outside the U.S. soccer bubble, and by the way, some of the people in charge, Matt Crocker, the new head of U.S. soccer in terms of the sporting side of it, he's English. Oguchi Onyewu, who played obviously for the U.S. men's national team and played in a couple of World Cups, has spent his post-playing career and a lot of his playing career overseas in the European models. And he most recently was running a Belgian club. These people are coming in with different ideas of what soccer is supposed to look like and how it's played well, how it's coached well. And hopefully that higher standard translates on the field. And a year from now, we're talking about a U.S. team that is playing better in the Olympics than it has at any point in the Vlatko Andonovski era the last 4 years. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, what else happened this weekend?
in downtown Nashville. You challenging me.
By the way, don't you ever find your head
I am.
Either way.
No, don't either way. Because you know what you sound like? You sound like you're trying to weasel out of it.
There's no weaseling out of the actual playing.
Really,
I'm not worried about that.
You say they're relying on Leo to
11 a.m. or
11
11
my buddy the next day, who was a Nashville native, and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the bachelor capital of the world. He's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
That's what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that.
Sometimes you just barge in and you're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, cool. Like, what are you doing here?
That is what it is right now.
Which is fine. Jeff's a delight.
Nashville, baby.
Can you please leave my guy's headphones?
So I will add one more
Professional radio
small part to the
producer,
story. And
he's got-
this is the part, frankly, that I've been waiting to tell you all week as well. That was kind of part one. We got.
There we go. Thanks to the wife, First Lady of the Hoffman Show, for the alert there. I was wondering where those files that I dragged into another thing went. Anyway, the point is, Jay-Z was here with Beyonce this weekend, and apparently he went to Opal in D.C. And was there for a long time, and was like great with the staff. And I think it was Washington Prob's Instagram account, or one of the Washingtonian. I can't remember if it was Washingtonian, like the magazine journalism outfit, or whether it was one of the basically meme accounts that also serves as a what's going on in Washington account. But they had a bunch of pictures and stuff. Yeah.
Dang. I did not see Barack this weekend. I was busy. Out in
Barack
Baltimore.
apparently was at the show that we were at on Saturday.
Barack Obama?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. Apparently,
there's a lot of people here.
The Obamas were there. And then Kamala Harris and her husband were there. Doug. They were at the Beyonce show. We're going to talk about the Beyonce show later. Real quick, though, what else happened this weekend? Sports adjacent. The Paul Diaz fight. Our fight correspondent, Anthony Haney, was not on the scene, but he did watch it.
Yes. And I told you how it was going to go. I felt as though Jake Paul was going to destroy Nate Diaz. Again, Nate Diaz is a warrior. So, even though his face was battered and bruised, he kept going, stuck it out. And Jake Paul ended up winning via unanimous decision. But 20 seconds before the fight was called, they got into like a little holding match. And Nate Diaz somehow put him in like a guillotine chokehold for like 3 seconds. I was like, yo, this is crazy. And then he raised up his hands as if he had won the fight. But Jake Paul had destroyed him, man. Now Jake Paul wants to fight him in MMA. And I don't think that's in Jake Paul's best interest, to be honest.
No. That'd be mega dumb. Mega stupid. Big bad idea.
Yeah.
That part of the reason you're able to win that fight is because there's a lot of rules that say there's only punching.
Exactly.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Like some people just need to stay in their lanes.
Yep.
Although, in fairness to Logan Paul, what a sentence. I can't believe I just even said that. Logan Jake. Which Paul are we talking about? Jake.
Yeah.
He was kind of a YouTuber that got into boxing. And so a lot of people say, like, just be a YouTuber. What are you doing fighting real people? But he's actually a decent boxer. Yeah. You know why he's going to do it?
For the money.
That's correct.
Yep.
Same reason that anybody else does these fights.
They're making a lot of money, though. So
they certainly are, which is why they will do it. I don't know. We don't need to get in a UFC side rant. The sanctioning on that fight, I think, will be interesting. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Other than that, what else happened this weekend? We saw a rematch in the WNBA between the Aces and the Liberty. I was at the last game when they played in Vegas. This one went the exact opposite. After an absolute beatdown in Vegas, Liberty went nuts. Sabrina Ionescu hit 742 three-pointers. I guess that's what it felt like. It was, I think, a 39-point win, by far the biggest losses for the Aces this season. Well, it makes sense. They've only lost 3 times. But in some ways, it's a nice wake-up call. Nice reminder that they're not going to just waltz to the title. Because you don't. It's too good of a league. It's too deep. Next matchup between these two teams is in a couple of weeks. It might even be next week. I can't keep track of the days anymore. But they play for the Commissioner's Cup title. So that one would be fun. Obviously you see when something's on the line in a major way, how they perform. Ace is still without Candace Parker, which I think also was a big deal in this game, and she was awesome in that first game against the Aces, and it's no real timeline for a return, so we'll see if she can get back by the playoffs, because that'd be a big loss for them. Spirit won a hell of a game on Friday night. Kind of the opposite of the U.S. Women's World Cup game, whereas like the U.S. Women's National Team was clearly the better team and just got absolutely, the bad luck of the sport. It's a cruel sport, and sometimes those things happen. But the Spirit were not very good on Friday night, but they kept things 0-0 until like the 92nd minute when Mariana Speckmeyer, whose whole career arc is crazy. She got drafted by the terrible coaching staff a couple of years ago. They were awful to her. She leaves the NWSL, comes back. She's here as a national team replacement player, and she bombs one from about 40 yards out. Top bins, upper 90, and that's your game winner. Spirit win 1-0. You just love to see it. Love to see it. Now they're off for a couple weeks. DC United was off this weekend, so if you want a soccer fix, Premier League, though, I think it's back this weekend. It's that or early next week. But you got like some of the preseason, like the shields and all that kind of stuff happening. So that's very exciting for us folk who love the footy. All right, when we get back, Matthew Paris joins us to talk Commanders. They had an abomination of a practice on Friday. Much, much better on Sunday, then a pretty light day today. We'll talk about it all with Paris next here on The Hoffman Show.
The Hoffman Show.
Here's what we need to do right now. I'm tired of hearing about this basketball game. We're scheduling this game.
He challenged me.
You challenged me. Don't say I challenged you.
Either way.
I came.
No. Don't either way.
No,
because you know what you sound like? You sound like you're trying to weasel out of this.
Yeah, he is, Craig. He knows
there's no
what he's
weaseling out of the actual playing of the game. I'm not worried about that.
11 a.m. Saturday, right?
All right, 11 a.m. on
11
Saturday.
a.m. Saturday.
God.
There's two. And one.
Guard up the nails.
Little recap?
It was somehow worse for Linnell than I thought it was going to be.
On the Paramore today. Not mad about it. It's the Hoffman Show on a Monday here on the Team 980, hour number 2. Any particular reason, Anthony, we're heavy on the Paramore today?
Just throwing out some different songs, you know.
Okay. I'm
just going through YouTube and clicking, you know, random. Shuffle.
Anthony's on shuffle mode. Okay. Noted. Stay tuned. You never know where it'll go next. I do know that what's next is that it's 5 o'clock, which means it's time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Today, our pleasure to welcome in Matt Paris of the Washington Times. Matt, how are you, sir?
I'm all right. I went outside. I was riding at Barnes & Noble outside, and now I feel some raindrops. So I might be moving underneath the banner here to not get poured on if these storms are starting.
Yeah, you might want to get a little bit farther away than just underneath a banner. You might want to go inside and possibly into a tornado shelter from everything that I've heard about these storms. It's apparently not good.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that drive back. I might have to wait that one out.
Yeah, hopefully it's quick. I don't know. We'll see if we can get a weather update for you by the end of the segment here and help you in your decision making. I want to rewind though. Obviously Friday was not a very good practice for the Commanders. I mean, there's not a lot to talk about from today, but there's quite a bit to talk about, I think, from the progression of Friday to Sunday to today. Friday, not good. Sunday, though, seemed like it may have been their best practice of the year. What do you think spurred that, and what was so good about the practice that happened in full pads over the weekend?
Yeah, it was interesting. It seemed like the timing was a lot better, where you saw on Friday Sam Howell and all the quarterbacks were kind of all over the place. Receivers were dropping passes, thrown behind to the backs of bodies. It was just really ugly. The defensive line was really getting into the backfield. It just felt like that was kind of maybe a wake-up call to Washington's offense, and for them to start, getting a little bit more familiar with their game. I mean, I think the offense in general has had ups and downs throughout camp, so it's not necessarily that shocking that they responded with an up after a down, but I think it was still encouraging to see given how bad Friday was.
I think one of the things that's been interesting, Matt, over the course of this camp is to watch the offensive line come together, and it seems like Chris Paul's presence has been very good. What have you made of how that group has coalesced, and do you, I'm getting to the point where I almost think that left guard battle is over. It feels a little too premature to call, but if you had to guess today, do you think that the 5 includes Chris Paul at left guard?
I don't. I think it'll be Sadiq Charles as long as he stays healthy. Now, we say that about Sadiq Charles every year. This was his best opportunity to earn a starting spot, but before Sadiq hurt his calf, it was pretty much all Sadiq Charles in there. Now, we've seen Chris Paul work more with the 11s just because Charles has been out. But, even in walkthrough today, Charles is back in there. So I think he's nearing a return, but we'll just have to see. I think that spot is very up in the air still.
Like, to me, though, I think the thing that's been interesting is, I feel like the line's been better when Paul's been in there. But also there is the reality that they've been gelling and getting better as camp goes, and Paul has been in there more recently, and Charles was in there at the beginning. So I think you're they split reps today because when it was walkthrough, it was Charles. When it was, fuller speed and Charles wasn't out there, it was Paul. But it's just I don't know, man. I'm kind of at the point where I'm I don't know. I'd like the guy that seems to make everyone play better, and that spot is better. But I guess, what is Ron said about it in terms of what Sadiq needs to show when he gets back to hold Paul off?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. He hasn't really been asked about it from that standpoint. He's been asked more generally about what he views as the right or the left guard competition, and he said, well, now it's Paul's turn to get an opportunity. So it's been a strong contrast, but I noticed on Friday, with Chris Paul, there was a moment after the play where Terry McLaurin got in St. Jude's face. After that, Chris Paul and Charles Leno kind of had an exchange on the sideline. Leno was giving him some advice in terms of trying to mentor him, and was really being hands-on. So I think Paul is still learning his way in the offense. But I do see, if we're talking about guards, I actually think Sam Cosmi has been more impressive of the two. Now, that's not necessarily surprising because Cosmi is a higher draft pick. But if you want to talk about, tackles going to guards, I think that switch has been much more effective for Sam Cosmi than it has been for Sadiq Charles.
Yeah, I certainly hope that he's going to be a breakout star this year at that spot. That was actually something that struck me when Cosmi spoke to, I guess, we say at the podium. It's not a podium. They sit at a table. It's very whatever. When Cosmi was sitting at the magic microphone at the table, where he said his conversation with Ron was, where can I be the best in the world? And it was guard. And that, so I think to know that that is Cosmi's goal puts, he's putting that level of pressure ultimately on himself. But I thought that was very, very interesting to hear that it's not, oh, can I have a successful transition and not suck this year? It's can I be an all-pro? I don't know if that's something that struck you as well, but it certainly struck me when Sam talked to us.
Right. Well, what actually struck me a couple days before that was, you're talking to Deron Payne, and he was asked, how does the offense look? And he singled out Cosmi, saying, the normal kind of tricks I normally use aren't really working on him because, he's pretty agile and quick. And, you think of a guy that big, you wouldn't necessarily associate athleticism with that. But I think that was the thing that was really missing from those guard spots last year. If they tried to run any screens, Andrew Norwell wasn't getting out in space and crushing dudes. To have that type of element back in this offense, I think is really important for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Matt Paris with us, of course, Washington Times. You can read him there. With us here on the Hoffman Show for Not My Beat. I opened the show today talking about Jacoby Brissett getting some reps with the ones, but also by saying this is a non-story, this is the context around it. Do you agree that this is, at least for now, a relative non-story?
Hey, hello?
So I don't know. Yeah. It sounded like you just got I don't know, you opened the door into the tornado. You all right over there?
No, yeah, I'm fine. Honestly, my Bluetooth headphones are still on my laptop, and I'm walking away, and it just reconnected to my Bluetooth laptop.
Oh, that's headphones. We've all been there.
Great technology working over here. Yeah. So I missed the last half of your question. Something about Jacoby Brissett working.
Yes. Long story short, Brissett works with the ones. I don't think it's a huge story. Just kind of a part of camp. Do you believe Rivera when he says it's not a big deal?
Yeah, I mean they did this with Taylor Heineke last year. No one thought Taylor Heineke was pushing for Carson Wentz's starting job at that time. Obviously, Taylor Heineke replaced.
Should have been, but that's hindsight.
Yes. But I asked Rivera afterward about how, after the 2020 season, he kind of is giving Haskins all the first team reps was a mistake and that he really needed a competition for that spot. And he talked so much about a competition earlier in our off season, but so far for training camp, I think we can all agree that it really hasn't been a competition. It's just been Hal getting most of the reps. And so it was interesting to see what he.
And here, let's bring Paris down there because it sounds like his Bluetooth headphones got him again. You hate to see it, Anthony. We've all been there. We've all had the Bluetooth connect at an inopportune time during a phone call. And it's the worst because you're just like, I don't want this right now. I would like to just be where I'm at. Phone, why do you have a mind of your own? Let's try it. Let's see if Paris is back.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah. The Bluetooth, Bluetoothed again, it seems.
Yes. Yeah.
Tell you what. Let's wrap up with this, and then you can go. Just do whatever you want with your Bluetooth. Friday is obviously preseason game number 1.
Yeah.
How much of if you say you got 4 quarters, of the game, how much do you expect to see first team, second team, third team, specifically offense?
Yeah, I would say the first team probably like a series, maybe 2. I'd have to go back to what they played last year. I think because the practices are different and they're longer and they're more kind of structured, I think that would maybe give them an opportunity to play less preseason snaps. As for the second team, I think Jacoby Brissett probably won't get a lot of work given he's a veteran, and so I think we'll see a lot of Jake Fromm and working with the 2s and the 3s.
That seems reasonable. I think we're gonna do the old fan poll next and see what the people think, and then Ron Rivera can obviously listen and take all of their advice if he wants to. Matt, Anthony, real quick, do we have a weather report for Paris? Can we say when storms are hitting the area so we can help inform our guy?
I can tell you storms are hitting the area now. It is very brutal in here. I walked in here, but it is coming down now, very heavy, and
sounds like you're gonna be waiting it out.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, good luck with that. At least you said you're in a Barnes and Noble, so you're in a bookstore. You got endless material to keep you occupied, which is nice.
All right.
All right, man. I'll see you. Thanks.
Right.
Matt Paris, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, let's take some calls on that. How much do you think I'm not going to phrase it. How much do you want to see? I would like to see them play all 4 quarters because I'm selfish and I would like to see that from my own 2 eyes. But how much do you think the first team offense should play on Friday? 301-230-0980. It's the Ace Law listener line. Interact Ace Law helps you get a check. Call 8888 Ace Law. Give us a call, 301-230-0980. We'll discuss next.
DC has a new home for your favorite songs from the 80s.
Tom Petty.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube. That's also free, by the way. Just, apropos of nothing, youtube.com/at the Team 980. And what about these storms, by the way? Looks like we're clear out back.
For now.
I need a weather map. Weather.com. Bum-ba-da-bum. Oh, good. Tornado danger in east is the current headline on weather.com. That's a yikes from me, dog.
I'm just upset that it's really supposed to be bad, like at its worst, like 30 minutes before we're about to get off work.
Well, I mean, if we just got to power through the show with the rain beating down behind us, then I don't care about that. I don't want to have to drive home in it.
Yeah, that too.
Although, God, if it's before, then traffic is going to be a mess, bro.
Oh.
Like, I know this is not an original joke, but like in D.C., instant traffic, just add water.
I've never heard that. That's
really?
Actually hilarious. Add water.
Just add water. Right now, I don't know where Paris was calling us from. I don't know what Barnes & Noble he was at. But I'm going to guess it might have been. I wonder if it was out in Ashburn somewhere after practice. Because right now Ashburn's getting hammered. So if you're driving on 66 West or like 267, it's about to get you. Germantown's starting to get rained on as well. Like Frederick is in the absolute thick of it.
But a lot of federal workers were already, allowed to go home earlier today at like 3 p.m. So maybe it won't be as bad as we think it is going to be, but there will still be some traffic.
I don't know. I'm looking at, let's see, basically right at 7 o'clock when we get off, the red part of the storm. Like there's going to be a lot of green that hits us starting around 6:15, 6:20. So as we end our training camp pick 6 at 6, we will be getting some of the rain down here in the district. And then it will continue to just hammer us for the next half an hour. And then by 7:30, 7:40, 8 o'clock, let's see, about 8:30 or so, it should be wrapping up.
God dang.
How do we get out of here now?
It's a great question. We're essential employees, so I don't think we'll be going anywhere.
Mike, let me pull up Take Command from today. We're going to play Take Command. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to speed home, and I'll be ready to go at 6 o'clock again.
Well, you'll be home, and I'll be here.
Oh, look, man. Someone's one out of 2 ain't bad. I hate it for you. I mean, I guess I could take one for the team.
Craig said 2 black eyes ain't going to get us home.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. Like, if I were able to get home and then connect and do the show from the home studio, I'm home, and then we both continue working. If you leave, I got to do everything myself.
Okay.
You're like, yeah, it becomes your problem.
Yep.
But it's not like you can do your job remotely.
I know. I'll just tune in. I'll be, looking at the stream. I'll be listening.
You could still be invested in the show.
Yeah.
But you can't hit any of the buttons.
Nope.
Help with the sound.
Nope.
No. I just got to bunker you down, bro. Put some extra padding up on that glass.
I know.
Alas, I'll be staying here. The other thing that sucks about just getting hammered with rain during August is that means the fields are all soggy tomorrow. And hopefully I'm guessing they put the tarps down, so they hopefully won't be as bad. But standing on the sidelines of a muddy practice field, the bugs today were crazy. Sucks. By the way, I forgot to ask Paris about the stump. So on the far practice field, there you're right up against the woods, right? And I guess there was a tree at one point that got cut down because it was probably hanging over the practice field, or maybe it had got caught in a storm and parts of it had blown up. Whatever the reason is, there's now just a stump on the edge of the woods. And Paris has decided that's his stump. And so during practice today, Paris is just sitting on the stump. And I'm like, okay, is this your first time sitting on the stump, or is like this a thing? He's like, no, we were out here the other day on this field. I claimed the stump as my own. He's like, the only thing is, I think there's more bugs than on a typical chair. I was like, yeah, probably. That's, the phrase ants in your pants can become very real if you sit on the wrong stump.
Yes.
Can't be having ants in your pants.
Have you ever had ants in your pants?
As a kid, yeah.
Oh.
Like when you're 4 and you're playing around in the dirt.
Yeah. I was in middle school the last time I had ants in my pants. I was at an outdoor nature camp, and I was standing on a anthill.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that was my first time ever being around an anthill. So I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I start feeling stuff on my leg, and these are red ants.
I was about to say, are they fire ants?
Yes.
Oh, that's bad. That's a bad time. Oh, no. Do they get you? Like, they bite?
They were biting me, but I end up looking down. I'm like, oh. And then the lady was like, yeah, there's an
anthill.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me now, lady. That's brutal, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when I was in, maybe it was older than like 4, but like elementary school, like definitely younger elementary school, like at my like daycare. I think we had stepped on an anthill situation. Not ideal. Like the thing is, like there's some stuff you wind up doing as a kid, or like things you get into as a kid, that once you hit adulthood, like when was the last time you even saw an anthill? Or we just like, we know what they are, so we avoid them now. I mean, part of it is like, I guess I live in a city. I don't know how many anthills are in a city full of concrete. If I were to go to some of the parks, I'm sure I'd find some. But like, I couldn't tell you the last time I saw an anthill. Why were they always around to get in your pants when you were a child?
Questions we need answers for now.
There's just, I'm trying to think. I feel like there was something else that happened recently there. I was like, or I heard happening to some, like my niece or something like that. And you're like, this never happens to a kid stuff, man. Life's different when you're down there.
Mm-hmm.
You've been in an elementary school at any point recently? You're like actually someone who like exists in the school system sometimes. So
yeah, not in elementary school, middle school, but not in elementary school.
You know, it's real fun when you're an adult. Go back to your elementary school and realize that the water fountain is at your ankles.
That actually is true.
I remember going back for the first, like you go back to visit a teacher or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Or even like, I think when I was in middle school, my sister was still in elementary school. Or maybe when I was like a freshman in high school, I went back and like she was in 5th grade. And, you go visit your kindergarten teacher. So you go down the kindergarten hallway. And you're like, is this water fountain always been this high?
Yep. The Montessori water fountains about an inch or 2 off the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just, different world down there. Different world. All right. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, that was weather and kid stuff. Now we return to sports. We're going to try to, every Monday for the rest of the preseason, do a roster projection. So we'll fire up the chart, which 53 make it, little stock up, stock down situation. And then our training camp pick 6 at 6 is coming at the top of the hour. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always alive as well on the free Odyssey app. That's Anthony Haney, super producer of this program, playing. He gets super producer when he plays Trombone Shorty. That's how that works. Halfway through. It doesn't feel like we're halfway through, Anthony. It feels like we should be in like hour 2 right now. It feels like 6:30, not 5:30, if I'm being honest.
I think it's because it's so dark behind us.
It is. I was editing some stuff earlier today that involved going back in the archives and like looking at some old stuff, and I forget like when we do the show in November, it's pitch black by like 4:30. And so, especially now that like the show starts at 4, last November the show started at 3. That's gonna be a mind you know what for us every single day. We're gonna get out of here what feels like at 10 o'clock at night. Show will still be 4 to 7. It's just gonna feel funky, but it is very dark because the storm's about to roll through DC. Again, if you are unaware, there is a massive storm that's about to roll through DC. So if you are driving, especially west, but honestly, if you're driving north out of the city. Basically, if you're driving anywhere but east towards Annapolis and such, then you're about to drive into it. If you're driving east, then the storm's going to come to you. That's just going to take a little bit longer. But right now, we want to do this every Monday through the rest of the preseason, which is do a 53-man roster projection. So this is a good time for you, if you have ever considered trying out the YouTube stream, to go ahead and hop to that, because we are going to put it up on the board. Whoop, that way. There we go. And you can see my screen here in terms of my very fancy depth chart, which is just a Google sheet. But we're going to insert a row there because we're going to go ahead and make our first edit to last time. So we had 2 issues last time, Anthony. One is we had a misunderstanding of the way the new quarterback rule worked. And then the other thing that we did was bad math. We were simply 1 player short. So this is really our first official one, because last time we did a 52 screwed up roster projection. Now we're going to do 53, and we got all the rules correct. So we're going to make some slight edits, and there's a couple guys that I definitely want to go in and out. So on the quarterback front, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett, and Jake Fromm, I think, are pretty much locks to make the roster. The way the new quarterback rule works, and you're like, what new quarterback rule? Remember, after what happened in the playoffs last year to the 49ers, the NFL was like, we will allow the 47th man emergency third quarterback designation that we used to have back in the league. So now on game day, you can have an extra guy active, and that is designated as your third quarterback. He can only play if your other 2 quarterbacks are hurt. You're not eligible to play any other positions, but it prevents you from putting your third quarterback just on the inactive list, and then he can't play whether it's a regular season or a playoff game. So with that said, it makes sense to carry a third quarterback. Ron, when asked about it today, said, I usually carry a third anyway, which has been true for them, especially last year. Obviously, they kept Howell inactive most of the season, except for obviously when he was the backup and Carson was on the injured list. But Jake Fromm has had a fine camp for a third quarterback. If you get to him, you're kind of screwed anyway. Jake Fromm is going to make the team, I think, as the third guy. So Howell, Brissett, Fromm, there's 3 spots down. Running back, Robinson, Gibson, Rodriguez. I think I am holding firm here at 3. I like Jonathan Williams. I like, I think it's Nick Gore, the new guy they signed who's playing with EB in Kansas City before. I like Jared Patterson. Like, they're all good backs. The problem is, for them, they're all good backs. So you keep the 3 that are your starters or your highest 3, and you know that if you need to bring in someone else, and even if one of these guys gets poached off your practice squad, that you'll be able to find a good running back. It is the problem with the running back market. So keeping 4 to me doesn't make any sense, Anthony.
Is there space for a fullback here?
It's one of the questions I definitively am trying to figure out.
I think we have a 4th back in Alex Arma.
I think we're going to get there in a second.
Is he one of those people that you have like on the fringe making, like, last 4 cuts? I mean, first 4 cuts type of thing.
Definitely he's in that range. And I also wonder if he's a guy that they can bounce to and from the practice squad all year.
Okay.
And bring him up for games.
Yeah.
If someone else is hurt. But I'm going to put Arma on for right now as a fullback because I actually think that it's something Bieniemy wants. And there's another position that I'm going to cut back on. So now we've got 4 backs.
Yes, sir. It's also interesting to see what Alex does on special teams. I haven't really seen him too much, involved. But if he is going to be on the team, I think he will have to have.
He makes a couple plays in the preseason on special teams. I think he's on.
Yep.
Because he's done a good job. And they trust him to play a little bit of tight end too, but mostly fullback. Okay, receiver. McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel, Brown. That has not changed at the top 4. What has changed is who is after. I think Byron Pringle's making the team. And he gets the spot that Marcus Kemp had as the former chief who has played well and is going to contribute. Pringle's also a return guy, and he's had a couple big returns in his career, which means we had Kazmir Allen on last time. I think Allen's out. Dax Milne has had a good camp again. I could see him making the team. Although, I do wonder if they they'll keep 5. They should keep 6. I don't think they're going to keep 7 like some people think they might. I think this is where it sits, where you go McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel Brown, Pringle, Milne.
I think we disagree on Milne. I think Milne is the practice squad guy, and I think Kazmir. We haven't seen it yet, but I'm expecting Kazmir Allen to be a little bit more dynamic in the return game. Milne is, sure hands, but I want to see some, dynamic return.
If he is the punt returner in the preseason and averages 20 yards a return, he could definitely play himself on the roster. But as a receiver, they're not even close. Milne's far, far advanced. He's way more precise. His timing is way better. He knows how to get open. He's made big catches for this team. Allen is quick and explosive, but extremely raw and unpolished. He's small for an NFL wide receiver. Milne's a big dude. Milne goes stand next to Terry McLaurin, and Milne's taller than Terry, I believe.
Yeah, but how much is Milne going to play during the season? I feel as though that's why Pringles, he's the number 5 guy. He's a guy that can, that has actual experience, that can step in for a Terry, that can step in for a Curtis.
But it's also who can take snaps and do trust to get their blocking assignments right. These are the kinds of things coaches care about, especially on the end of the roster. They care about reliability. It's not, hey, we got to get this guy a touch. And maybe sometimes coaches should do that more. They should go on the side of explosiveness, but it's not what they do.
Yeah.
And I also get it because if something happens, you want the guy who randomly might make a great play but is going to screw up his assignment on other snaps. No, you want the guy you can rely on. So Milne has had a good camp.
Yeah.
He continues to make plays. And so I think, a lot of guys have made plays. Jalen Sample, Bryson Tremaine, another touchdown today for, what's his name?
McGowan.
McGowan's made plays. That's not who I was talking about. I'm just totally blanking. That's how many guys there are. I can't even remember all their names. But Pringle's the guy that, let's lock it in. He's making the team.
Yeah, I like Pringle a lot.
And then we'll see from there. All right, tight end. This is where I'm cutting somebody. I'm cutting Curtis Hodges. And I think they're probably certainly hoping that he can make it to practice squad. But if you're going to carry Arma, I don't think you can carry 4 tight ends too.
Yeah.
You get tight end or fullback. And maybe those are 2 guys that bounce back and forth between the practice squad and the regular squad all year. And they kind of, Arma makes the initial 50, or maybe Hodges makes the initial 53. Honestly, I probably feel better about that as a prediction. Hodges makes the initial 53. Arma gets cut. They tell him, hey, man, sign on the practice squad. We might even pay you a little bit of extra to stay here. And there's going to be games where we cut Hodges and put him on the practice squad, then re-sign him on Monday and activate you for game day. So that could be a funky thing to watch this year. But, a guy you cut a guy and tell him, hey, we're going to re-sign you on Monday. He can go sign somewhere else. So that is a risky game to play. But you got to make cuts somewhere. And I think that's going to happen. So Hodges out for me right now.
I like it.
I think, and by the way, it's not like he's had a terrible camp, but he has not been as good as Cole Turner.
Yeah.
And if Arm is going to make the team, you got to make a cut somewhere. Okay. Offensive line: Leno, Charles, Gates, Cosme, Wiley, Paul, Lucas, Stromberg, Daniels. Here's this could be a big one. Daniels.
Yes, gotta go.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Mason Brooks in. Backup guard Mason Brooks has been awesome. Now, that leaves them very light at tackle. And that's an issue.
Yep.
And it's the kind of thing where, like, does a guy like Sadiq, if he loses the job to Chris Paul, do you make a move there? Or do you try to retrain him at tackle to be your fourth tackle? Like, you're all of a sudden in a bad spot at tackle. But it is what it is, man. Like, Brooks has been better. Daniels hasn't been good. And if you get down to that, you're trying to sign a veteran free agent anyway.
What do you think of Trent Scott?
I think he's got a shot, but he's probably a practice squad guy. Like, Brooks has been good.
No, I'm just talking about at tackle.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. Is like you sign guys to practice squad, and if you have to call them up in a game, you call them up in a game. But, like, Brooks is a guy that if there was a true open competition between Charles, Paul, and Brooks, like, and you're just basing it off of their performance in camp, Brooks would be the starting left guard right now. Yeah. You're not. You're doing a projection, right? You think Chris Paul can surpass both of them, frankly, and that's why I think ultimately he's going to win the job, is because not only is he basically as good or better right now, but you can see a future where he's very, very good. But Brooks is a guy that I think right now has done enough to make the team. Defensively, let's go quick here because I actually don't think there's a lot of changes, although we are one heavy, so I'm going to have to cut someone somewhere, and I know where I'm going to do it. Defensive line: Young, Allen, Payne, Sweat, Smith, Williams, Mathis, Ridgeway, Obata, Tuhill, Henry. The rookie 7th-rounder Andre Jones has looked very good. I just think it's a numbers game there. Actually, if you are subscribed to Take Command, you might get a little bonus thoughts on Andre Jones from me and Logan. Wink, wink. So make sure you subscribe to Take Command, our latest Take 5 episode. Linebacker: Jamin, Barton, Mayo, Hudson. I'm going to recut Milo Eifler. Sorry, Milo. I just don't think the position has enough snaps available to justify keeping 5. And if it's that or like another safety or another DB, then I'm going with the DB, which leaves at corner Forbes, BSJ, Fuller, Wild Goose. I guess if I wanted to cut Holmes or Johnson for another linebacker, I could, but I would keep both those guys. I still think for right now, one guy to watch, Terrell Burgess, has had a really nice camp, and he's a guy who can play corner, safety, nickel, a little bit of everything. I could see them keeping him over like a Christian Holmes. But I'm going to keep Holmes, the draftee from last year, for right now. And then at safety, Forrest Curl, Martin, Butler, Reeves, and then Way, Sly, Cameron Cheeseman, who has not had a particularly good camp. And there were long snappers that were trying out today. But for right now, that's, I think, still the plan. Any defensive tips, any bones to pick?
Nah, I think I like where we are.
The corner, that last corner spot is the one that if you wanted to shuffle some things around, I can definitely hear it. But I think that's probably the right play for right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's our projected official as of 5:45 p.m. on August 7th projection. Will it change? You betcha, which is why we're going to do it again next Monday. Obviously, we'll have a preseason game to base things off there, so we'll see how much it changes. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, we will take a look at what we did this weekend, including Anthony balling out, flag football style. Oh, yeah, and I saw Beyonce. That's next on Team 980.
Here's what's trending.
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Hope everyone had a great weekend as we sit here on a Monday. And that artist you just heard coming out of break, that was a woman named Beyonce Knowles. You might have heard of her. She's very, very talented. And she sold out FedEx Field twice this weekend. Thankfully for me, I was at the Saturday show. Anthony, did you hear about the chicanery at the Sunday show?
Man, the amount of rain. Salute to her fans. Salute to Beyonce also for continuing and,
not just Beyonce, like her dancers.
Everybody.
Like some of the stuff that they did. I actually wonder... I would love if anybody went twice to say if there was a difference in the two shows. Do they have a rain version of the dance / the outfits / the costumes / there's one point. So you're a big enough Beyonce fan that I'm sure you've seen her live stuff before, either going to a show or the Netflix stuff or whatever. But she's got the twins, right?
Yep.
So the twins are two dancers that are her lead dancers. They're incredible. And they are, you'll never guess this, based off of the fact that they're referenced to as the twins. They're twins. And there's one point where they're up on flagpoles, and it's almost a circus-y type of thing, and they're going back and forth, and I don't know grip-wise if I would feel super comfortable and safe. And because they're swinging over out into the crowd, and you slip and you just fall on top of a bunch of people that. I don't trust them to catch me, and I don't want to hurt anybody below. So, I wonder if the show got modified at all. But it was truly incredible. Now, I will say, here's your Commanders tie-in. I have not been to FedEx Field since 2019, Anthony. The Eagles game, where there was 60,000 people and 45,000 of them seemed to be Eagles fans. In 2019, a game where I left the press box, went and said hi to some friends on the club level, and could see a better picture of the green that was engulfing the stadium. And I turned to said friend and went, Bruce Allen's going to get fired immediately. And sure enough, within a couple of days, he was out. It was going to FedEx Field. I was reminded how much it sucks going to FedEx Field. I was texting with somebody who works for the club, and I was like, man, I am so glad that Josh Harris has ingress egress as one of his priorities. We had bought parking. We didn't wind up using it because we decided it was going to be better for us, and turned out to be a genius decision as we were sitting there trying to turn on to what is now Sean Taylor Road with the circular drive, because it actually would have been a disaster for us because we needed to be on the lots on the other side of the stadium, and they would have probably either said they would have let us park in the wrong lot or turned us around, and I don't even know how long it would have taken because the street that we were initially going to go down to get to the correct side of the stadium had been blocked off. In hindsight, might have been the Obamas of why all the police cars were there all of a sudden, or Vice President Harris, who was at the show as well, such as life in Washington, D.C. But what we ultimately did is we couldn't turn onto that road was popped to Huey and pulled into the driveway of one of the people who lives right by FedEx Field, who was making money, charging for parking. And because of that, we also didn't have to sit in the FedEx lots after the show. So I was home in 35 minutes probably after. That part was great.
That's clutch.
Super clutch. Highly recommend. But yeah, that was the FedEx Field Commanders adjacent part of it. But it was weird walking through the stadium because I have not been there in a long, long time. You going to go to the first preseason game there?
That's against the Ravens?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. If I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm not really that
I
eager.
won't be because the Aces Mystics game is that night. So I'll be at ESA for that. Gotta go see.
That's where I might be then, Craig. I might be there with you. You might see me.
Okay.
Hot dog.
Yeah. So if it wasn't, I'd probably go. I think I am going to try to go after pregame week 1, though, just because I feel like the story's there. But anyway, the show was incredible. And for as great as, Beyonce is great as a performer. You know she's incredible as a vocalist. But there were times where you're like, wait, is that her? And like in some of her songs, you don't realize there's like, you know the Nicki Minaj Barbie voice?
Mm-hmm.
Where she just like gets up into this thing and it sounds like she's doing a cartoon character? Beyonce does that. I did not know that. It's a thing you don't realize until you're seeing her live and you're like, well, damn. You could be an opera singer, could be an R&B, like exclusively opera, R&B, pop, soul, whatever genre, and also you can do the little Nicki Minaj Barbie voice. That's not fair. That much talent. So that was it was really like mind blowing because like also, you know, she was kind of the first one when you go to these big arena shows or these big, I should say, stadium shows to make the screens behind part of the show as opposed to just a way to see the art. Because like when they started, it's just like, yeah, we should do a big screen so people can see because they're so far away from the artist. And so sometimes you get caught watching the screen and you realize that she'd moved 50 feet, that she'd moved from a side stage to the main stage or wherever. And you look down and you're like watching the whole thing and you're just like, when did she get there? When did they get there? Where did those dancers come from? It was like, I feel like I could go to that show 10 straight days and learn something new about it every single time. Like, and that is artistry. That is chef's kiss.
What was your favorite song that she performed?
I'm a sucker for a mashup, and I have to go back and pull a set list. But there was a couple times she like sampled her own stuff.
Oh, that's tough.
Where like you play the bass line of one song and sing another lyrics, and they're like, let me see if I can pull up.
That is so tough.
Beyonce set list DC. Let me see if I can. It doesn't. I don't know that it's up yet. FedEx Field at Landover. Let's see. Because it was also cool because she, like it's basically like a 6-act play the way they do it, and so you'd have a set of songs, then like a video interlude or a band jam session or a dance break, like where her dancers would just go crazy, and then she'd come back out and do the next set of songs. And she started off with like ballads, like it's almost a warm up, an amuse bouche of artistry. Yeah, it was during Alien Superstar. She sampled Sweet Dreams.
Oh.
And it was insane.
Dang. I wish I could have gone. I was actually contemplating going to yesterday's show just because I heard they were selling tickets at a cheaper rate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard about the rain. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But I was also tired from being out in Baltimore, so.
Well, so that's the thing. So we went on Saturday night, and then the U.S. game was 5 a.m. on Sunday. We taped it and watched at 7 a.m., but I got less than 5 hours of sleep.
Dang.
And so it wasn't until I had taken a 2-hour nap and eaten like 3 times, and it was 5 p.m. on Sunday that I felt human again. Also, the looming sadness of the U.S. loss did not help. So that was my weekend. How'd the flag football go, sir?
Winless weekend. We did not.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes.
First of all, the first day we did not have our entire team. But we knew that, so it was going to be an uphill battle on Saturday. But Sunday we ended up playing the team that lost in the championship, and we beat ourselves. Gave up a last-second, touchdown at the end of one half,
Ooh.
and then we threw a pick six, and that one really hurt. That killed everything we had going because we were moving down the field, and then you throw a pick six, and it just took all the momentum. But we were right there the entire time, and we still didn't have our full, team. So hopefully come Nationals and also during this season.
When are Nationals?
January.
Okay, so we got some time.
Got more than enough time.
Okay, all right. We'll keep you updated on Anthony's flag football team as we go here. All right, it's the Hoffman Show. Clearly, the highlight of the weekend in review was Beyonce. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And when we get back, it's our training camp. Pick 6 at 6. did you ever find your headphones?
Yes, I did find them actually.
Who do you think hid them? Who do we need to fight?
What were you saying?
I said now that you've got your headphones on. Who do we need to fight? Who do we think hid them? Where were they?
So Jeff Walker definitely came into the studio and took my headphones.
If you had given me one guess, 100% Jeff Walker.
Yep.
100%. All right, Jeff Walker. You come in, sometimes you just barge in, you're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, cool, like, what are you doing here? Which is fine. Jeff's a delight. But can you please leave my guy's headphones alone? He's a professional radio producer. He's got things to do.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My favorite story is, I think we were playing Cincinnati. Was it Cincinnati?
That's not what depends on the story, but maybe we were playing Cincinnati.
So Logan catches this touchdown.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was Cincinnati. Yep.
It was Cincinnati. So we put in this play, and it was like, I think we called it Hoss Juke or something like that. I can't remember what we called it in that offense, but Logan's on a seam, right? So he's our vertical threat, taking the top off the defense.
Digging out, guys.
We're talking in the week. I don't think we ever said it in the install with those guys, but they're like, listen, Logan's not even in the progression. He's taking the top off this thing. We're trying to work this little option route down. And they bust this coverage. And I mean, he is screaming wide open.
I wasn't even supposed to be on the play. They were supposed to sub somebody else in because I thought I was too slow to run this route. Just for the context here for everybody.
So he's screaming wide open. And I'm like, Matt, throw it at his back shoulder. You might hit him in stride. If you try and back shoulder him. Threw it right at him. He catches it. It was an awesome touchdown. Yeah. Just the celebration afterwards was so much fun. For me, it was always fun celebrating the touchdowns with the guys that didn't score them all the time. You know, like
take that, Julio Jones.
Yeah, and I'm not. I'm saying that, but like your role for us was you did the dirty work, and when you see guys that do the dirty work get rewarded for it, that was really cool. Something I'll never forget. The caveman. Yeah. And the caveman was in there in the end zone celebrating. It was awesome.
It's the Hoffman Show, final hour on a Monday here on the Team 980. Please drive safely as the storms are getting hot and heavy. Storm check. Oh, it's coming down, Ant. It's raining. It's windy.
And I see people leaving the Nationals game. Or is the Nationals game already
The Nationals game has been canceled.
Oh.
Canceled. I do also know, and actually, can you remind me in the next break, Take Command will air tonight at 8 o'clock on 106.7 The Fan, as we are scrambling over there. Or not scrambling. Professionals. They're professionally adapting at perfectly reasonable speeds to get on programming because the game did indeed get canceled. So Take Command will be tonight at 8 over on The Fan. I need to record an intro for it, Anthony, so inside baseball that all of our audience just get to hear. If you can remind me in this break to go record and send that to the boss, that'd be good for everybody.
Gotcha.
All right. In the meantime, though, it is 6 o'clock, and that means it's time for our training camp 6 at 6. Still brought to you by nobody. Damn. That's all right. What it is, though, is us bringing you the top 6 stories of training camp on every single practice day. So we got more than a few this week. Of course, maybe we'll do a pick 6 at 6 on Friday of 6 things to watch during preseason game number 1 because it is game week. And that is where we start as we wrap things up for this first portion, the gameless portion of training camp. And what has been, through my eyes, a successful camp. And I love the structure of it. And I talked about this a lot earlier in the show, but to rehash some of the high-level things here for those that were not listening earlier, which I assume is most of you. There's a light day today after a heavy day yesterday, and they've done a really good job of mixing how they're practicing and this kind of idea of added volume that Eric Bieniemy wants, while making sure that doing a lot more than in the past hasn't resulted in a lot of silly injuries that are, I don't want to say entirely preventable, but could have been mitigated in terms of the risk. Rivera is a guy that has, for all we make fun of him on the analytics side of things, and what analytics led you to Carson Wentz. He is a guy that has leaned into some of the sports science for a long time, and some of the people that he brought with him from Carolina are in that department. And the understanding what Bieniemy wants to do and running more dense practices, right? More plays in the same amount of time, more volume, to use the more technical term, and creating a practice structure and a plan along with the coaching staff to get there. To me, it's obvious that has happened because it's such a good, strength and conditioning coaches would see that and go, that's the smart way to do that. And as a result, they've been relatively clean from an injury standpoint. Today, they run the 10-10-10 style of practice, where it's 10 offensive plays, 10 defensive plays, then 10 special teams plays, or 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, depending on which period. And it helps guys stay off their feet and keep an easy day easy. I'm a big proponent of easy days easy, hard days hard. Today's an easy day. It's an easy day for anyone. But what's also happening is, because they've done this the right way and they built up a good ramp and now are practicing at this harder intensity with more plays on the average day, on the hard days, which are most days in training camp, they've created more resilient athletes. And so these guys should, knock on wood, be more resilient to injury during the season because they're just better conditioned. And there's kind of 2 ways to think about this. I'll use, it's not really analogies, but 2 examples, right? So let's say you have to run in a game at 18 miles an hour. A lot of people traditionally be like, well, I got to run 18 miles an hour, and I got to be really good at running 18 miles an hour. And my school of thought is, well, what if we train you to run 22? Now, 18 is not nearly as fast, so your effort level is not as high. Your stamina is greater. Your ability to perform, would you rather perform a complex task going full speed or just be able to take your time? If the goal is accuracy, take your time. So if you can make it easier, then great. And I think that some of that thinking has kind of gone into this, where we're going to make practice almost harder than the games in some situations to make it so that you can function well in the game. By the same token, if you have to run and I got to run 10 100-yard sprints on a game day, well, you could also kind of the EB approach is like, well, I'm going to train you to run 15, and that way 10's nothing. That way, when you only have to run 10, your injury, if your capability is 15, then your chances you're going to get hurt are not high because you're not going to be capped out. And so days like today are important from the light standpoint to be able to recover and be fresh on those days when it's time to go run the 15 or time to run the 18 miles an hour. And so, again, just really impressed with how they're structuring everything and how they're making sure to balance that with, the right meetings and all that kind of stuff that you talk to players. And it seems like they're really enjoying the way that Eric Bieniemy is teaching the offense. And it's also created great opportunities for the defense, because this is the other trickle down of kind of running practice the way that they're doing. Is if you run 100 plays because the offensive coordinator wants to run 100 plays, it's 100 plays for the defense too. And so some of these defensive back combinations, some of the pass rush combinations, some of the linebacker combinations, they've had a chance to experiment more defensively than they ever had in the past. And I think that is also going to pay dividends for them come the regular season. So practice structure remains a top story for me. And I think today is just another reminder of even though it's a lighter, easier day where it seems like they don't get a lot done, they actually are super efficient. And even today, they ended 20 minutes early because they got the work done they needed to and then got off the field. So it's really just smart. And there's a lot of credit to go around. Everyone wants to give it to EB, and he deserves a lot of it. But there's a lot of credit from the trainers and the health staff and the sports science people to Ron Rivera for bringing everybody together. So credit where it's due. All right, training camp pick 6 at 6. Things more specific to today. Jacoby Brissett got reps with the first team offense. Oh. Is that a thing? Big thing? Little thing? Not a thing at all? Here's what Ron Rivera said when asked about it afterwards.
Yeah, at some point he's going to have to work with them, just so he gets to know them and they get to know him. We started talking about that the last couple days, trying to figure out when would be a good opportunity to do it. And so one of the things that Eric and Tavita thought this would be a good one with the 10-10-10 practice today. And so we went ahead and gave him the last couple in each period.
And there were periods it looked like, at least to my vantage point, that Brissett was out there the entire time with the ones. Ron would know, he's the head coach, I guess, but and maybe it's one of the periods he split reps with Howell and then just stayed out there with the twos. But I thought there were some times where they jogged out as a first team offense for the first time after the threes had been out there and they rotated back around, and Brissett's the guy that jogged out. Anyway, whatever. The larger point is correct. If Jacoby has to play this year, and again, this team has played 3 quarterbacks basically every year since Kirk Cousins left, if not literally every year since Cousins left, and that's at least 3. Don't need to remind everybody about 2019. But you want those reps to be in the bank, and a day like today that's a little bit lighter, that is about the mental reps, about some of the timing, about some of the intricacies. Not full speed, let's go make plays. We're not competing. You are competing, but it's the ones on the 2s and the 3s, not ones on ones, good on good. Those are the reps you want to get your back up, and so a good chance today, and they did that. As for Brissett getting acclimated if they do need him, here was Ron on how the veteran nature and the veteran experience that Jacoby has plays into that in a positive way.
It's a little bit different. It is. Jacoby is a veteran guy, and him getting acclimated happens a lot quicker than younger guys, obviously. And that's one of the things that I think bodes well for a guy like Jacoby, being part of your quarterback room. He doesn't need the total number that we've been trying to get Sam at.
And again, when you run 100 plays, it's easier to get a couple of extra snaps in for your backup guy. Now, when you're doing a situational period, you're not going to be all right, switch it halfway through. And you also don't want to run your receivers and your offensive line, your first team in the ground, just so the quarterback can get the second team quarterback can get some extra reps. But that's why today, with a little bit lower intensity on all of the reps, is a good day to mix it in. And Brissett, because he's got so much experience, as Ron said, can theoretically take a little bit more out of it. Logan Thomas, this thing number 3 in our pick 6 at 6. 6 most important and interesting things from training camp today. Logan Thomas out again. It's day 3 in a row. Starting to get a little concerned on it. Not ideal. Here's Rivera afterwards.
Slowly, gradually. He's a guy that we want to be careful with first and foremost. So the thing that we've got to be aware of is just, he's an older guy. He is coming off an injury. Yes, it was, 2 seasons ago, but you can't be too careful, especially in this situation. And in this offense, knowing just how vital the tight end is to this offense, we've got to be very smart about that.
He's also got to practice, and he's got to get ready for the season. A good way to not be ready is to mix. We talked 10 minutes about the ramp-up period, right? If you had to skip a couple steps, if you think of it as a staircase, not a ramp, then the analogy works better. Like, you don't want to skip too many steps. Like, if you got to skip one every now and again, like, it's pretty easy to catch up. You start skipping 3-4 steps, like, I know Logan Thomas is tall, but come on. So getting him back out there soon, I think, is important for his preparedness for the regular season. With that said, I do trust from a mental standpoint that Logan Thomas is in great shape. He seems to know this offense very well. He has had a fantastic training camp, fast as 2020 Logan Thomas. So does he ultimately get back and get healthy and get back on that ramp up for the season is the most important question. But, being cautious is also understandable. And it's not like he's behind mentally. So I think that sits well with Rivera and Bieniemy and where they're at right now. This one's a little interesting for sure. So we're walking off the practice field today, and there's some guys in tryout gear, and you're like, oh, I wonder who these guys are. Wonder what position. And then you see that one of them is kicking footballs with his left foot, punter style. And you're like, is this the year that Tress Way finally doesn't have to play the preseason? That would be cool. I've been advocating for that for years. Sign an extra punter instead of wasting the 90th roster spot on a guy that you're definitely not going to keep. Just go ahead and sign an extra punter and protect Tress Way for the season. He'll be ready to go week 1. Is that what's happening? And turns out the news is slightly worse than that.
It's just out of abundance of concern. Just want to make sure, Tress has got a little tightness in his lower back. So we just want to bring a couple of guys in, get a chance to watch him.
Oh, by the way, that wasn't a deep breath by Rivera here.
So we just want to bring a couple of guys in, get a chance to watch him.
Anthony, there was, I think it was a bee that flew, like right here, and so he kind of.
That's actually funny.
I don't know if it was a bee or whether it was like I was far enough away that I couldn't see exactly what type of large flying bug it was, but Ron very calmly. Away. Hate to see it. Can't be having that happen. Anyway, Tress Way, back tightness. I think you shut him down for the rest of training camp. Protect Tress Way at all costs. Now, I did also find it interesting, though, that they worked out some long snappers today as well, and Ron seemed to put the kibosh on that being any reflection of Cameron Cheeseman's job so far in training camp, where he's had some bad snaps. He said, when you try out punters, you need snappers. But it's the kind of thing where, you could just have Cheeseman snap to him. You could just toss him the ball. Like, there's a lot of ways you could work around that other than having a long snapper. You bring in a long snapper to try out because you want to try out a long snapper. You want to have a file in case all of a sudden in the game on Friday, Cheeseman sends one over someone's head or into the ground or whatever, and all of a sudden you've got a problem. So I understand that Ron probably doesn't want to cause panic, but he was very short and very mum on that. And I am admittedly reading between the lines, but I am reading between the lines that it's like, yep, we're trying out long snappers just in case. Hopefully it's nothing. Hopefully Cheeseman is fine. But it's the kind of thing where it's like, you cut Nick Sundberg a couple years ago for no bleeping reason. The guy was nothing but consistent and steady for almost a decade. And that's all you want out of a long snapper. You want consistency. And he was the model. And you cut him. Because I don't know why. Then they drafted Cameron Cheeseman. A draft pick on a long snapper. Resource management. Kids, it's important. Learn about it. Live by it. All right, last two. Training camp pick 6 at 6. Quick throwback to yesterday. Actually, let's go to the kickers first, and then we'll get back to yesterday. Kicking competition, obviously, in full swing. And both the kickers were at the podium today because, of course, they were. Joey Sly, the incumbent, on whether he knew they would bring another kicker into camp.
I mean, I didn't know if they were or weren't. Didn't really care if they were or weren't. I knew that I had stuff that I needed to work on coming into this year anyway. Had a little hiccup towards the end of last year and didn't put the final stamp that I wanted to on it. So knew I had stuff that I needed to work on and still continue to progress in. Like I said, going into year 5 for me, I still got things I'm working on to be the best that I can be. So for me, it was regardless if they brought someone in or not, I was still going to be doing the same thing. So.
Always looking inwards for improvement. We like that. Approve it. Pretty funny exchange between Sly and Mitch Tischler, by the way. Mitch asked him, like, hey, with all the kickoff rules changing, do you, like, work on any different techniques, anything like that? And Sly just goes, nope, I just work on banging touchbacks because that's who Joey Sly is. Michael Bagley is the other kicker. What's his approach towards the competition with Sly?
It's a good opportunity. You go into any type of competition, at least for me, the same way. Just go out there, just kick as well as you can and, prove people wrong and just have fun with it.
There you go. There's your kicking competition update. Be curious to see how they split things on Friday. My guess is like Sly gets the first half, Bagley gets the second, and we'll see who gets the kickoff if they choose to kick off first. As for thing number 6 on our training camp pick 6 at 6, I want to rewind a bit to yesterday, which was by all accounts the best practice of the season or of the preseason so far. And that follows Friday's practice where the offense was absolutely just bad. They could not get out of their own way. Just a Murphy's Law of a practice. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And the way they bounce back Sunday, I think, shows the character of this team. Like, again, is character ultimately going to be enough to win you games? No, but I don't think you can win championships or compete on a high level day in, day out, week in, week out in the NFL without it. You have to have a competitive character, an ability to bounce back, an ability to be resilient and to keep fighting and do the right things and trust your process. And that's what they showed on Sunday. They showed that despite the fact that doing all the things or trying to do the things that they're supposed to on Friday blew up in their face, you just go back again and do them again, and they wind up working out a lot better on Sunday. The timing was better. The rhythm was better. Guys were catching the ball, better throws from the quarterbacks. Offensive line did a better job. It was just overall a better practice. And we've talked a lot about the maturity of this team this year. It's something Ron has been watching for a long time. I think a practice like Sunday after a bad and a chippy one, by the way, on Friday, is a really, really good and healthy sign. And then just a kind of professional practice today on that lighter day. All good things. We'll see again, skill-wise, execution-wise, what does it lead to in terms of wins on Sundays? But, another checked box, if you will, for this team. Also something we talked about more in depth on Take Command, which you can listen to now on your favorite podcast platform. That'll do for our Pick 6 at 6. Fun thought exercise for us next here on the show. The class of 2021, some high-impact draft picks and a couple of high-impact free agents. Now going into year 3 with the Commanders. Who has the best chance at a breakout season amongst them? We can take some calls on that. Your candidates, De'Ami Brown, Benjamin St. Juste, Sam Cosmi, Derek Forrest, Jamin Davis, John Bates, Curtis Samuel as well on the free agent front. 301-230-0980, the Ace Law listener line. We open it up next here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Final half hour here on the radio. And then if you want more about the Commanders, you can, of course, listen to Take Command, which will air live tonight on 106.7 The Fan, or you can watch on our YouTube page at 106.7 The Fan for the full episode. I'm going to go cut some of the best of for my page as well, youtube.com/@Craig Hoffman. And, of course, this show is streaming live right now at the Team 980. So, Anthony, very, very good topic from you. Very, very excited to talk about this because I think it's super interesting. Year 3 is often a obviously big year for football players as they have a couple years under their belt and start to really become the young veterans that can start to get into their primes. I mean, it happens that quickly in the NFL. And for this team, there's a couple of guys at key positions that fit that bill. And there were, I would say, one key free agent signing from the class of 2021 who also has a monster year ahead of him and has the chance to make an impact. So the question that you posed to me before the show and that we're going to try to answer right now is, which player do you expect to make the biggest jump in year 3 with the team? The candidates, draft-wise, are Dyami Brown, Benjamin St-Juste, Sam Cosmi, Derek Forrest, Jamin Davis, John Bates, and then Curtis Samuel also eligible from the free agent category. This is your idea, so I'm going to let you answer first. Who makes the biggest jump?
So I haven't fully come to I don't fully have my whole answer, but I will say I think it's probably going to be Benjamin St-Juste, just because, first of all, the camp he's having, and then also Ron spoke earlier about, him playing in the nickel and, him attacking that position and, making it his essentially. So I'm expecting him to, have learned from last year. We did see him a little bit in the slot last year, and he did get called, for a couple, handsy penalties, holding and things of that nature. But what I've seen out there, his ability, use less of his hands and, just rely on his length. And he's just a big corner on the inside. So I think I'm expecting him to go out there and make some noise. And my runner-up will be Dyami, just because I think he's going to have more of a chance to make more impact, down the field. And, him and Sam already have some type of connection.
I think those are two excellent answers. By the way, here's Rivera on St-Juste earlier today.
A lot of confidence. He's now into the system 3 seasons, and you see him play with confidence. You see how sure he is of his technique, how much stronger he is. He's a good physical corner for us with good length, and so that's kind of cool, and I think it'll be very helpful.
I think St-Juste is a very, very good candidate. I'm going to go with Dyami Brown, though, for this reason. I think if you phrase the question as who's going to make the biggest jump, Brown's got the most room to jump. I think St-Juste will have the better season, the more impactful season. So in a way, I'm playing a silly little semantics game here. But Dyami is a guy that has been incredibly disappointing for 3 years. He's had one good game where he had the 2 monster catches, but he showed hey, I can impact a game on that level. I think this year is an offense designed to fit his skill set way better. There is very well-designed deep actions. There is a lot more quick game stuff where he can get the ball in his hands and let him run. Like quick slant, run the route well, get the ball in his hands, and see how long he can run in a straight line before someone catches him. Beautiful. And then I also think that they'll be able to leverage some of his downfield speed into, simple curl and stop routes, and you steal a good 8 to 10 yards. And Dyami should have 3 to 4 catches a game for 40 to 50 yards a game. And then he'll have a couple, 2 to 3 games, let's say, where he's got 80, 90 yards and a touchdown or 2 because he catches a bomb. And it's a 1 for 70, but cool. We'll take that A-okay all day. So I think because Brown has been so disappointing and because I actually really do see the growth in him, he'd be my answer. Circling back to St-Juste, though, I think he has a very critical role in this team, and I actually think the Commanders are in a bit of a funky spot with him because I think he played really well on the outside last year. He did play really well on the outside last year. I agree with the penalties and like a couple too many of those, and there have been some times this year where he's still handsy. But we talked about it, like we as in Benjamin and I talked about it in our interview last week. That hockey background he has created a defensive back who, despite his size, which normally when you say despite his size because a guy's too small, this is in this case too tall, if you will, created a DB with phenomenal hips, the ability to turn, quick, plant, get in, get out of cuts inside. These little short bursty movements that are very, very natural in hockey, where he grew up in Montreal playing in Quebec, that translate very well to playing inside corner. And it's a hard position, but he's got the intellect to understand what's going on in there, and he's got the physical skills, and then obviously the bonus added length, because most guys are not that big, tall, and long inside, to be a real impact player. And I think what's interesting too, Anthony, Logan and I were talking about this earlier today on Take Command, there's so much speed in that back end. And because modern NFL offense is about space, the space just disappears. And you've got Cam Curl flying around, Forrest flying around, Butler flying around when he's out there, Quan Martin super quick, BSJ not just quick and fast, but because of the length. Like, it's kind of like when you play a super long NBA team and there's arms everywhere. Like, BSJ has some of that. Or if he's out in a zone, like, the windows to throw are smaller because he's so damn long inside and can block up and gum up a bunch of stuff to one side of the field. And then you got Forbes, who's obviously super long, and Fuller, who's super smart. And you're like, where did he come from? Oh, he just picked six me. Cool. Kendall's good for one or two of those a year. And so I think BSJ is the guy, if we're saying who has the biggest impact, I think Brown's the guy that makes the biggest jump.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's almost like he has the most to prove.
Yeah.
And essentially. But it's also surprising that neither one of us went with Curtis Samuel. I feel as though in contract years, because I think this is his contract year.
It is.
Guys tend to, go crazy. You look at Josh Jacobs. He went from being a solid running back to leading the NFL in rushing yards. Or, you look at Saquon. You look at all these guys just around the NFL. In contract years, they tend to, just have a better season. So I'm sort of kind of curious as to, how Curtis is going to look. It's just we have so many options out there, and I think it's just going to be tough for him to, like, really get off the way we want him to get off anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. I also just don't know the opportunities are going to be there. Like, Jahan Dotson's having a camp, bro.
He's nasty.
Logan said he's the MVP at camp so far.
Ooh.
Like, there's a world where he has more yards than Terry this year. Like, I can't believe I'm saying that. I love Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Like, I was ready to sign up as president of the fan club from training camp in 2019. Like, I've been there, done that. That's my guy. But Jahan just fits this offense so well, and he's so freaking talented. He's fast. He's quick. He's smart. His route running savvy is ridiculous. His catch radius is so far outside of his body. Like, he just does everything well. Dude had 7 touchdowns as a rookie, and he missed like 5 games. So I think Jahan's going to have a monster year. I still think Terry's going to. Like, Terry is so damn competitive that he will just find a way to get the ball, and then he makes, like, every time he catches it, he runs 3 guys over. So Terry's going to have, well over 1,000 yards, and Eric's going to get him the ball, at least 5 to 10 times a game. So there's, at that point, what are the options? And if Robinson is as good as he's been in camp, and I just don't know where the opportunities are for Samuel, and that's coming from someone who said that I think Samuel gets the biggest boost of anybody from EB being here. There will definitely be packages for him. They're going to get him the ball. But I don't know that he's going to have like a monster type of year. I think the one that's interesting that we didn't say and we didn't talk about yet is Jamin. Because Davis has played with the 1s, the 2s, and the 3s at different points in camp. He's been on some of the special team stuff that suggests that he might not be an every down starter. And coming out of last year, like, I was really pleased with his growth trajectory. He was very, very good. He's a professional linebacker. by the end of last year. And another tumultuous offseason. He has the knee scope. He's been behind. He's got the reckless driving thing that's kept him away and is still looming over his season potentially. There's just stuff with him, which sucks because he's apparently a really nice kid who does everything but drive the speed limit correctly. And it's felt cursed from day one. And he was the first round pick. And like, this is the thing I talk about all the time, that if there's something that's going to undo Rivera, if there's something that Josh Harris looks at after the season and is like, you can pitch me on this thing all you want, this is where I just can't trust you. It's the fact that the big signings, Samuel, William Jackson, and the first round picks, Chase, Jamin, have not worked out. And, if Jahan has a big year, like, that's a data point in the positive. If Forbes is what they think he can be, Ron can be like, look, my last two, A+. But the fact that we're not even talking about the first round pick, I think is big. I will say the second rounder, though, is someone we should mention, because Cosme bumping inside from tackle to guard has the potential to be big time for him. He could be awesome this year.
Yeah, but if everyone else around him isn't performing, it's sort of going to kind of be tough for him to get off. And sometimes bad lineman play affects the play of, the start lineman.
Tis the nature of offensive line.
Yeah.
One, you get overlooked and get mentioned at the end of a segment for 30 seconds. And two, you could do your job and everyone thinks you suck because you're done. There were times, some of the Sheriff years and some of the Trent Williams years, where like other guys got hurt and you'd see an offensive, like you'd do a screenshot of the film and they'd be like at the line of scrimmage holding guard, haven't given an inch, and the rest of the line is 3 yards deep in the backfield with two of them on their butts. And you're just like, oh, cool. That's how this is going to be. Clearly not that guy's fault. Or you get, bad line calls. There's all kinds of stuff that can mess up. But I do think potential for a big jump. Cosme's been pretty inconsistent at tackle over the last couple of years, in part just because he's been inconsistent in terms of his availability. If he is out there and playing at guard at the level that I think he's capable of, he could definitely be the right answer to this. Good thought exercise, Anthony. We should do that maybe the rest of the week with the 2020, the 2022, and the 2023 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got the biggest chance to make an impact? All right, when we get back, there's a big old fight in Major League Baseball this weekend, and if you haven't heard the play-by-play, you gots to. And Real Things, Real People Said, into real microphones.
Here's what...
It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, wrapping up. As the thunder starts, Ant, did you just hear that behind us?
I definitely did, man. I definitely did.
It could get ugly.
It looks like the sun is coming out, though.
I know. Like, it definitely rained in part. I don't know. What you got over there? I felt like I was too far away from the microphone, which is, an important thing to be close to.
It's looked like it's dying down. The sun is coming out on that side, so you probably can't see. But, yeah, it might be a little drizzle. That's all. That's all I see right now. Maybe slight sprinkles.
That would be sweet. That would be sweet. All right. Let's tell you that tomorrow, big day at Commanders Camp. Eric Bieniemy speaks. So we will have, obviously, the best of that interview. We will have, let's see, what else? Probably have a beat reporter on for Not My Beat because it's going to be a pretty jammed day out there. So maybe might tackle Sam Fortier. Be like, hey, you, sit down, start talking. And then I actually don't know. We might have an interview tomorrow as well. Ant, you're going to be back at camp tomorrow, right?
I will be out there with a brand new iPhone, Mr. Craig Hoffman.
Yeah, so what happened to your phone this weekend?
You're not going to believe it. So after work on Friday, my friend had a surprise birthday party at the wharf. I had time to kill. I got on one of these scooters because you can't. I didn't want to have to pay for parking down at the wharf.
Yep. No.
So I got on a scooter,
smart.
Driving down there, and I kept driving. I kept moving past the spot. I didn't know where I was going. So I put my phone on the little phone holder, and I went over a speed bump, and it fell and cracked. The LED light on my phone is showing, and I've been phoneless for the last 2 days, and it's been a long 2 days.
Yeah. I bet. I would have been carrying my iPad around. I would have not left the house.
Yeah, I've been using my Apple Watch.
Yeah, that's woof. See, I got my Apple Watch doesn't have cellular. If I'm near my phone, it's fine.
Oh yeah, that's the only way I have to have
you've just been carrying around a broken phones for the cellular.
Pretty much. And my flashlight has been randomly turning on, and I'm just I can't turn it off, and then after an hour, I guess it turns off by itself.
That's hilarious. Fun fact, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. That sucks.
Not the life I deserve, man.
No, but you got a new phone, so that's good. All right. Anything else for tomorrow's show?
I don't think so.
All right. I think our guy Eric Edholm is going to join us at some point this week, too, so that's something to look forward to. All right. Something else to look forward to. End of the show every day. Real things, real people said, into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
All right. We mentioned the fight. Tim Anderson, Jose Ramirez. I have intentionally not listened to this yet, but I've heard this is the best play-by-play of the fight. This is from the Cleveland radio call, and apparently Tom Hamilton, the play-by-play announcer, might have a little bit of experience calling some boxing.
Here it comes. A swing and a smash to first by the diving Vaughn. Down the right field line. Kicks into the corner. Ramirez on his way to second. Head first slide. Safe and in to score is Jimenez. And another hustle double. Right over the bag at first. Now Hosey and Anderson square off. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson. Ramirez went in with a head-first slide. Hosey never gets upset about anything. They came up chewing. Anderson squared off. Hosey decked him. Right over the bag at first. Now Hosey and Anderson square off. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
Oh, it's so good. Unless you're Tim Anderson, because you're down. He got cocked, bro. Just cold cocked right in the face. And he went, whoop, bam.
Did you see him on Twitter yesterday?
What'd he say?
He was going crazy. He was basically saying, this isn't finished. Like, he's not finished. And
what are you going to do? Square up again? This ain't boxing. There's no rematches.
Coming to pay-per-view November 30th. Ramirez Anderson 3.
Like, you're a baseball player, bro. You got mad. You squared up. You got your ass beat. Sit out 6 games and shut up and come back and play ball. Or yap about other things. I'm not even going to shut up and play guy. Like, I'm intentionally not going to endorse or use that language. Just shut up about this. You lost the fight. That is the end. It is over. Agree? Disagree,
yes.
Anthony?
He needs to just leave it alone. Yeah. It happened. It happened.
Show did. It happened to him. All right. Tomorrow during Real Things, Klay Thompson talks for the first time about the Jordan Poole trade, so that's something to look forward to. Tomorrow, BetMGM, look forward to that right now.
Hey, I'm Craig Hoffman.
And I'm Logan Paulson.
And together we host the Take Command.